Welcome to the Don't Die Rusty podcast. I'm Rick Hanson, and we will be talking about living, not dying. We're all on this adventure together, and we will be interviewing people who inspire us to live our best lives. People with various backgrounds who will walk us down the trails they took to not die rusty. Adventure in life are many things to many people. It could be a sprint or an endurance race, but with each adventure, we become a better version of us. We hope you keep chasing those dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die rusty. Hello, Don't Die Rusty Nation. This is Rick Hanson again, and this is interesting because we did an episode. I think it was in June. I'm here with Dr. Jensen, and this is going to be an interesting conversation because we haven't talked a lot in the podcasting sense, but after the podcast and since he's worked on my body, my knees, we've become friends. And I'm lucky to call you friend. And I've done a few fire and ices with you. That's being in the sauna and being in the cold plunge tub. It's just been an interesting journey here. And I thought, you know what? We had such a great conversation up at Terry Peak. Ricky's not here with us, but yep. I hope I can keep the conversation going.
We need to have you back over for the fire and ice again too.
Yes, because here's the deal. And I say that a lot, but here's the deal: the last time I was there and did the fire and ice with you, I didn't feel any pain for like 2 days, like nothing, and that just makes you realize how much things work. You know, I slept the best I've ever slept.
Nice, yeah.
I
get that a lot when we put people into the cold water. Yeah, it's that the very first few times, it's a reset. It's a activation of something deep within you, doing hard things that makes it so. Yeah, it's pretty sound sleep.
And then not to feel any pain. And I have to say, you've injected my knees, and I still feel good.
Good, yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I have not.
Well, that's been a while ago too.
Yeah, and I went to Salt Lake. It was a spur of the moment thing. I went to Salt Lake to the Western Hunting Expo, and I was sitting on a plane. Before, if I sat on anywhere still for like an hour, I was in pain. Like I had to stand up, or there is nothing. I gotta stretch my legs out, and then we got stuck on a plane, and it was just not a fun time. But my legs didn't hurt.
They did okay.
They did okay. So that's good.
Yeah, but it's always a cumulative effect of what you do. You know, maybe the injections just push it over the edge, and then you can get into a mental aspect of pain and discomfort. You mentioned earlier you've been in a little bit of a funk, and I think you've been talking about that in some of your episodes. And so, yeah, everything takes the hit with your health, unfortunately.
Well, and we're going to get into this stuff. Just, since the last time we chatted, you've gone on a few things. You've gone on some adventures, and you had a few life changes. And
yeah, big life changes.
I don't know if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it. I don't know how to talk about it in a way that makes me not relive it. But yeah, I started out and ventured out on my own through a forced relationship, essentially. So now I have my own practice where I'm able to do a little bit, well, basically to do whatever I want now. Mm-hmm. And so it's been nice, but it's been a struggle. So it's been hard. I've been busy. I've been hustling, and I'm sure some people that listen to it are familiar with it. Others aren't, but yeah, it's been life changes. I've been on some adventures, so that's helped my mental, strength to kind of push through it. But yeah, it's hard on your own. It's a challenge,
and that's where kind of I'm going with my life in some aspects. Not that it's hard on your own, and that I'm going totally on my own, but Ricky's busy and I'm doing a lot of this stuff on my own too, but that's not comparable to you.
But everybody's got their own thing, I'm not on my own. I mean, it's fascinating how many conversations I have with people, and they always want to know, hey, Ray, what are you up to? What's going on? They always want a story. And everybody is so supportive. And it's like a community, just like the Don't Die Rusty community.
Yeah.
It's like people that work on their own and they get away from the establishments and get away from the poor culture and the environment and the toxic work relationships. People that get away from that are so much happier. It's only been like 6 months for me, but I'm way happier.
Well, and that's what it's about. But there's two things. Like I said, I call you friend now because we've done more stuff together. So I do that. But I have troubles with the medical field in itself. But you're the one. We talked about this when we were doing the fire.
I know. It's like, I don't know if you want to get into this.
But you're the one guy I trust.
I gotta stay neutral somewhat.
No, and that's I'm not telling. I don't want to know any stories because some of this is none of my business and I don't give a darn. But what I'm saying is, I trust very few doctors because I look at things as a medical machine at times, like insurances and big conglomerate places that just keep on adding hospitals or clinics. But I don't trust very many doctors in the aspect because are they doing this to make money for the clinics or the hospitals, or are they doing it for me? And these are the questions that come into my head. And then the other problem is, and I wouldn't call it a problem. I think the problem with the medical industry now is there's so many experts and podcasters talking about medical stuff that I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't even think about. And then I go look it up. And I'm not saying I'm a doctor, but at least I'm having more knowledge of what's going on with my body.
Right.
And to be able to sit there and chat with you about things. And like I said, I trust you. And that's one of the few things. And it's hard for me to trust people in some aspects. But to trust a doctor with what's going on with me is another step above, actually, to me, because I'm trusting you that we're making the right decision for me in the end.
Well, it's a very intimate, thing it's a vulnerable place to be in, pain and discomfort and inability and, having the limitation sometimes is frightening for people because they don't know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're exactly right. As a medical community in general, over the last 5 years, can I say the COVID word on
you can say whatever you want.
We're not gonna get audited.
No.
But I mean, I think we clearly dropped the ball in so many ways that we could spend hours talking about how like the medical system in general, not everybody, but in general, failed a population like incredibly sad. I don't even know the words to use. And now it's almost like an awakening. Now people are like, wait a second, like I'm not sure that's the right thing for me. No, I'm going to sound silly when I say this, but like I listen to podcasts all the time, and I learn more from podcasts than I ever did in medical school.
Really?
100%, because you're basically taking an hour out of your life, and unless you listen to Rogan, then you're listening for 3 hours, which I do often because you're having a conversation with someone that's an expert in their field for 1 hour's time. The beauty of podcasting is incredible because of the information. So you can go on and get information on any topic you want. I only listen to medical podcasts, but there's tons of hunting podcasts. I mean, they're all over the place.
I like to listen to so many different podcasts, and actually we were talking about Lindsay, Lindsay Ulrich. I did her episode on this Monday, but we were talking. There is so much out there to learn that it is just amazing. But this conversation that we're having doesn't matter if it's an hour or too long. We're learning. When I was in my early 20s, I would read books, and I saw the movie Seven, and I didn't know anything about the 7 deadly sins. But I will tell you, don't ever, unless you're in a college class, don't read Dante's Inferno by yourself because it's boring or it's so boring. But that's the curiosity that we have, and that's where podcasts take us. Because if I hear something on, we were just talking about an episode of Joe Rogan earlier, and it just piqued my interest. I wanted to learn more about the guy he's talking to.
But there you go. That word, curious, like be curious.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, if I could sum up what my opinion on healthcare providers and, any industry, what healthcare is an industry.
Mm-hmm.
Why we call it healthcare, I think I said on the last, but it's sick care. It's not healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not curious anymore. No one's curious. They're just existing in life. They go to their job and they see a patient who is a number, and then they see the next patient who's the next number, and you want to fit that person into a box or whatever you want to call it, so that they can pass on to the next widget or whatever as they go down the line. And so what happens, the diversity in medicine is there. And so if you don't want to recognize that challenging case or that difficult patient or the patient that maybe needs a little bit extra time,
yeah,
they don't even think about it.
This is where I'm lucky, where I get to have conversations. And this is where I started really questioning the medical industry, we'll say, because I did Mina Bonhorst. Her son Jackson was in the UTV accident in Fort Pierce, South Dakota. It'd be about a year and a half, 2 years ago, just about. Well, a little over it. Anyway, year and a half ago, it would be close to. And she was telling the story, and it was like, there was no compassion. After 11 days of being at Sioux Falls, and I can't remember which hospital off the top of my head, but they told him to take him off the ventilator. He's going to be a vegetable. And listening to her, and it is funny. I mean, we can talk about signs of life, but she told me that, and I remember this explicitly, but she told me in the podcast that she's walking in because they had the family around. They're going to take the doctors had her believing that this is what they needed to do. And she's walking in. She sees a purple Charger. That's what her son always wanted to have, is a purple Charger. And there was one in the parking lot. And she said, his favorite movie was Jaws. And here comes a guy walking out the doors that looks like Richard Dreyfuss. And she's questioning herself as she goes up. And she gets in the hospital room. And she says, we're not doing it today. And then he ended up going to a brain place in Sioux Falls. Then he ended up going to Craig, Colorado.
Right.
And then he ended up going to Omaha. And now, the doctors are saying if he ever comes out of this, he's going to go to like a home because he's never going to be mentally able to take care of himself again and all this stuff. And he went to Craig, he went to Omaha to learn to take care of himself. Now he's re-enrolling at SDSU. That's the hope. Now, and then the other evening, I talked to, like I said, Lindsay Ulrich, and she had a stroke 12 years ago.
Oh,
and she's an ultra runner. Wow. And they said, you'll never run again. And she's running again. These are the things where I have problems because some people don't give people hope. And I think as a patient, sometimes you need reality, but you also need hope that you can help yourself be better. If you push yourself, you can do better too. Like, you've been honest with my knees, and we've discussed how to fix them where we might need to go. But there's always hope, and you always tell me that I got to do my fair share too. You can't just give me something that's going to be a miracle. Right. I have to work myself. If I got new knees, if I don't follow healing them, then why did I get them?
That sums up. Like, people just want the easy. They just want they want people to do the work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they want the easy button, and that easy button doesn't exist.
No, and then it just drives me crazy because, like, my wife, who's hippie-ish, you know her, but
hippie-ish. I like it.
She got me really, in the beginning, I was kind of scoffing at her a little bit because I was making fun of her being a hippie. But then I got thinking, and then she got into functional medicine.
Yes.
And I wasn't realizing, then you start listening to Huberman, you start listening to other people, you start listening to whoever else. And I started realizing her hippie-ishness is really not hippie-ishness, it's more smartness, because we're looking to find the root of the problem and why it's causing certain things. And it's not like, am I exercising enough? Am I eating the right thing? You don't have to go out and get crazy about this stuff in the aspect that you can still live a great life.
Absolutely.
But it's...
Well, look, I'm sorry to point this out, but like, there's a lot of hippies that are doing pretty good in life.
I know, and that's nothing to be sorry about.
I mean, like, look at them. They're like, you're weird. You have chickens in your backyard. Well, they seem pretty happy and they seem pretty healthy, and they're not going to the doctor.
No.
What are they doing? What are you? You must be doing something right. You're eating right. You're exercising. You're meditating. You're doing self-care. Like some of those things that our society, our norm thinks is weird. Well, define weird to me then. Whatever you think makes you a better person. Like if you want to sit in the corner and meditate and hum and do excessive breathing or whatever it is, like do you.
Well, and living a simpler life.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people that aren't striving to get that Lamborghini, we'll say. They're striving to live their happy life. Mm-hmm. And that's where I am at the moment. Is I mean, we're doing this right now, but I'm going to put a post out for Don't Die Rusty tomorrow. Is I just don't want to exist. I want to live. And we're going to get into you living here pretty soon.
No, I like, but that's what exists, and that's why. Like, I love my job. Mm-hmm. Like, and we talked a lot about my job at the last podcast. I'm an orthopedic surgeon, but man, I thrive on like getting people to back to what they want to do. Because there's a lot of people that get hurt all the time, and just to give people that hope, and I think that's honestly, I think I'm pretty good at what I do because I enjoy it. And I think to look at somebody and, like I fixed the shoulder yesterday. Mm-hmm. The guy wants to go back to wrestling. So I'm like, well, let's fix your shoulder, because if we don't fix your shoulder, you can't wrestle. Do you want to wrestle? Let's fix your shoulder. Mm-hmm. So I fixed a knee on a rodeo gal, Yeah. She wants to goat tie. Well, like if you don't have a good knee, you can't jump off the horse and go tie that goat.
You'll just tip over.
Let's fix your knee and let's fix it the best way possible. Yeah. And that's what, they live their life. That's what they choose to do, and they want to do it. And so if you're passionate about things, I think it's nice.
It is nice. I want to go on adventures, and I want to live, and I turned 57, well, in about 3 or 4 weeks, and I want to just keep on rolling. It's funny, I had this conversation with Sean DeGray. He was the one that I did my first ever podcast with.
Okay.
And we talked about Terry Peak and stuff. That really piqued my interest of doing this. We did a podcast a couple weeks ago. It started out about living and questions, and then it kind of got into purpose. And I do think there's a purpose for me to want to be doing this, because I get to talk to everybody and we get to learn. So this takes me on another adventure. From doing this at podcast, I get to go to, now I'm going to the Western States. It's probably the oldest 100-mile race in America.
Nice.
I get to stay with world-class athletes, and I get to help out a world-class athlete. I said I'll try to keep my distance so I don't trip her or anything in the race or anything. But the purpose of this, what I'm trying to get at, is we never know what direction we're going to go. And
well, I'm living that right now.
Yeah, well, yeah, but we also have to have our mental. I don't know how to say this because I heard it just. Cindy and I were talking about this, and it was, but you need to have your mental health, and I can't remember how it went, but you got to go to Fiji.
Yeah, I did.
On adventures. So where I'm going with this is our adventures may when we come home from our adventures, we may be tired, but it helped us out physically, mentally, everything else. So how do these adventures, I mean, I love watching you doing your foiling.
Yeah, I do the foiling. Yeah.
I mean, here's the deal. I'll never do that. We talked about that in the last episode because Jaws will come up and eat me, and I don't want to do that.
We could eventually get you on that. I got a couple of coming on board. We could probably make it happen. Yeah, we don't have to go in the ocean. We go into Ormond. It's going to be, it's getting warm out here, so it should be thawed out. No, but foiling for me it's been an adventure for me because I've been doing it. I think I'm on year like 7 or 8 maybe. So I kind of started really early before there was a lot of it out there, and so it's been really fascinating to kind of follow it through. And now it's like it's a big thing. It's a big sport. There's pros there. I think they're racing next weekend in Florida, and so now it's bigger and it's way beyond me. But I do enjoy that activity for sure. So
well, it's kind of like. We're going to put it in this. It's kind of like archery to me. I don't know if it's to you in the aspect that there's things that you enjoy doing, but I don't know if you have to think about when you're on the water. It's that freedom that's going through your head that you're kind of alone and you get to think about or don't think about whatever you want to.
I think that's the key for me. I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
I don't think about anything. And there's a lot of joy for me to be in, a flow state. And I may have talked about this on your podcast before or somebody else's, but, being in a flow state is kind of what I seek out because it's just you can't define happiness. You can't define joy. You can't, for the most part, people can't even define sadness. When you're not feeling any emotion other than just being, what is that? And I refer to it as always the flow state, maybe because it's surfing, so it's flowing. But like for me, I'll find myself sometimes in surgery where I just am doing surgery and it's kind of like movies, like Rain Man with all the numbers and all that stuff. That to me is why I enjoy that stuff. That's why I enjoy surgery too, because of that.
And we did talk a little bit about flow state in the last episode, and I start looking at things. I said it in one episode. I think it was the 24 Hours to Live episode that we did, and I said I was elk hunting last year, and I was watching this pond because it was so doggone hot out. It was below me. I was just thinking, if I took my last breath here, it wouldn't bother me because I'm in a beautiful place and I'm just, how you don't have to kill things when I go hunting. It was just like I felt like this is the most peaceful place I've been in a long time. I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to be anywhere. I can just lay here and watch the pond and hope an elk comes in. Then I'd have to think if an elk came in. But it's like if this is my last breath of pine and sage and whatever else was in the air there, I'm at peace. And there's very few things and places that we can go to find that peace anymore. I think we were talking about earlier. He said humans don't have a firewall.
Interesting.
And he said that we're growing up, social media, all this other stuff, we have no firewall to stop things. Our mind keeps working. We're comparing ourselves. But I never thought about that, how our technology is moving so fast and humans themselves don't have a firewall to stop or slow some of this stuff down. That actually, I think this, I can't remember the study, but they had put people together. They put young kids, they were having mental problems. They did a test on them for 3 years. And like they tested kids that were using social media. They were always online, playing games, doing this, doing that. And then they did the study of I don't know how many other kids that didn't do that and how their minds were totally different. And that's where he kind of came up with the firewall. If you get a chance, listen to the Joe Rogan podcast with I can't remember his name. It's the latest one.
Just talk about
but it was quite interesting. And
the response. They talk about it all the time. Like, what's your experience when you're looking at a phone, even though you think your mind is all crazy intelligent? It doesn't know. If you're watching a lion, chase after and on a phone, certain parts of your mind think that that's real. They don't know that you're watching a television screen, even though you think you can turn parts of it on. It's like kids especially can't do it,
No.
And then when you're watching violent things and you're getting that instant response.
Yeah.
Right? That trained response of, oh, look at this picture, look at that picture. Always having that, then what does it stop? Where do you have that reset? Where do you have that, quiet mind? I don't know if that's the right word for it, but you ever seen kids sitting around anymore? When we were growing up, there you go sit in the corner and just be quiet for a little while. And no way you could do it. Had that, they'd probably put you in like parental prison if you made your kid be quiet for an hour. I don't know.
And also they said, I was reading, like they said that because we're online, most people at least are on 8 hours a day of some social, not social media, but computer time, screen time, we'll say. But we are changing who we are because of this, and we are losing our imagination because boredom created imagination. This could be, I don't know, I haven't been to any other countries, but if you think about this, if there's boredom, people try to figure out things. So curiosity. So we as Americans are getting lazier and fatter, and this is just the way it is. But when we were kids, when I was a kid, it was you go outside and you figure out your own problems. You know what I mean? Like you went on adventures, but what I'm saying is, without the curiosity, without being bored, new things in America aren't being solved as diligently as they were before because people aren't thinking about. They're not bored. Like making the best mousetrap or whatever. I don't know, but
it could be anything. That's how. I tell my kids all the time, just you gotta hustle and you gotta learn how to learn, right? Because they're always making fun of, Dad, why did you go to school for 28 years? Or they don't actually say that, but people like, why 28 years? You never use this math equation. You never use this in your job, and I don't.
Yeah.
But you know what it did is it taught me how to learn for the next level, right? So I took algebra. Well, I learned how to teach myself how to learn a new thing. So then the next hardest thing, I was able to teach myself how to learn to do that. And the next hardest surgery, then I can teach myself how to do that next time. Like, you have to learn how to learn. And that's what people don't understand. They just think they're just going to be like, oh, I finished school.
Yeah.
Or I got a new job. Or I'll bring this back to why we really want to talk about it. Healthcare, right?
Yeah.
They're not curious. They don't want to learn. That's hard. It's hard to dive into something. It's hard to have hard conversations. And it's hard if you don't understand things and you think you should, and you don't have the ability to self-reflect and say, geez, I wonder if COVID is helping us, or our treatment options for COVID. Like, look at the people out there, myself included, that said, sorry, hopefully we don't get canceled for good.
You're not going to get, this is not canceled. Rick doesn't.
The COVID talk, yeah. But you want people to listen to it. It doesn't have to be COVID. It could be whatever it is. Diabetes, it could be whatever it is. If we're not curious, and the people that are trying to treat you aren't giving it 100%, trying to figure out, just like you said, like we're teaching our kids and this electronics and the AI and all that stuff. you actually have to think about things in a whole system to figure it out. And if you're not willing to figure it out, then you just exist.
Exactly.
And when you just exist, then you get really poor healthcare, and you get really poor results, and you get people that are really not happy, and you get a toxic work environment because this person's put in the healthcare system to make money. That It's a business, and I understand that it's a business, but if people aren't willing to go the extra mile, that shows. Yeah. It shows from leadership. It shows all the way down. And when you have these hospital corporations that are in charge of healthcare and that are in charge of insurance companies that are dictating what doctors can and cannot do, how is that in there? But like, they didn't go to medical school. They didn't learn how to learn things. And so, but yet they make the decisions that affect our healthcare system. And doctors, and we are to blame, we're lazy enough to give that power to somebody else because they didn't want to do it. That's it. Yeah. I mean, if you look at, everyone says, like, points fingers and says, the healthcare system. I mean, over the last 6 months, and sorry, we want to talk about this.
No, I want to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
I was in a big healthcare system, and you don't understand, the dollars and cents of it, and it is a business, and I respect that. But I think we're at a point in the healthcare system that people are going to look for something else.
Well, I agree with you here, but you brought up a few points, and usually I write them down, but I'm remembering this, so that's good.
First of all, I went on my
first of all, I think administrators are worried about dollars, and they don't have any sense. So that's where I'm going with that.
Well, but they're also worried about quotas, and now more than anything is we're worried about people's feelings, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to disrupt that. We don't want to disrupt the apple cart.
Yeah.
We want to, status quo is just fine, because status quo makes it so we don't have to do our jobs.
Yeah.
Right? If you go to an administrator or a colleague, and so now we've developed these layers and it's just not healthcare. We don't have to talk about healthcare. It's in every society. I mean, look at what Elon's doing with the government.
I know.
Like, tell me that's not crazy. And people are freaking out about it. And I'm like, that is not an unreasonable thing. You have so many layers that you don't even know what you're doing.
No.
And that's what's wrong with healthcare. And that's what's wrong with, like, any civilization that you look at. You get layers, and those layers disrupt they create organization, and they're great for a lot of things. But if you get too many layers, there's a graph out there, and I don't know if you can see on the video. You have, like, they're out there. You can Google, like, administrators and doctors, and the doctor's line goes like this, right?
Yeah.
Straight flat.
Yeah.
Well, the administrative line climbs like Mount Everest.
Mm-hmm.
So you're hiring so many administrators.
Well, I want to go into COVID just a little bit.
Okay, I like it.
Because me and you have talked about this too. I think it's more your wife and I talked more about this.
I tried to get her to come.
Fun.
I was like, you should come. He's going to want to ask you questions.
Yeah, next time we will have her on here.
Yeah,
but here's my one problem. And it's interesting how things are starting to come out about the COVID shot. How things aren't so good about it. Like, we all knew about the heart problems.
We didn't do effective studies and quotas.
So I didn't have my shot. But how come when I went and gave blood, and they asked if I had the shot, and I said no, they were excited about having my blood.
Yeah.
I mean,
is that not terrifying?
You know who it's terrifying to? It's me, knowing that some of my loved ones got the shot and what's going to happen to them and what other things are going to happen to them. Like, it's crazy to me. That's one thing. And if anybody came on here and wanted to argue with me, I'm not kidding you. I was giving blood. And I started giving blood because of my mother. Used to have blood. She had a few surgeries, this and that. I thought, that's a way to get back to the world. My other problem was, and this is during the book, I mean, this is on other podcasts, this is coming out, but when they didn't allow the doctors that were in the field to try to help, it's not curing COVID. But when we got into the Ivermectin thing with Joe Rogan and other people, when they're saying it's a horse medicine, and everybody goes and says, no, it's not. And then
It's gaslighting.
They were. So that stopped true, probably trying to find a way to help the people that had COVID, or, if somebody would have got it, to find a way to help alleviate their symptoms or whatever else, because there is no helping that. Is you wear a mask and you get the shot, and nobody
Which are the two worst things you could ever do.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy, man. I can't remember who came out with this study about COVID or long COVID. So now there's this long COVID. We could go into We could go into the dynamic of, is it a real virus? Is it not? Is it man-made? Whatever it is. But in general, a virus is a virus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't remember who it was. I'll get it. Maybe Merkel or one of those guys that have done the study about vitamin D being an effective, reasonable treatment for COVID or long COVID or sunlight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you just locked all the old people in the room and took away the one thing that they could have got, or put a mask over them so they hyper oxygenate their tissues or get hypoxia wearing this stupid mask on their face, which has no benefit whatsoever. And and then you wonder, and I think it's fascinating that you wonder why we don't have a good healthcare system. Don't even get me.
I won't get you started on this.
It's just I mean, but it's the things that we don't understand that worry me.
Yeah.
Right. And this is not my area of expertise at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have a thinking brain, and it makes me nervous to why. Like, why were this is way off topic, but why were we gaslighted, and why did all the experts get shut down?
Yes.
And why did the common sense get thrown out the window? Mm-hmm. And why did all the propaganda, the videos of the same emergency room every time on the news, on every channel? I'm like, well, there's a lot of emergency rooms out there that maybe aren't like that.
Yeah.
Well, why? Are we asking ourselves, and we should still be asking ourselves about medicine, of why? Why are we, as a industrial nation, the United States of America, why are we the most unhealthy nation? Why do we have the highest rates of diabetes, highest rates of cancer? We're the top of the chart, but in the wrong way. And why is that?
And I don't know where it was a news article or what I can't remember what it was on, but it's like Ozempic is made in Scandinavia, Norway maybe, I can't remember where it's made, but they don't even allow you to prescribe it. Why is that?
Well, all right, we'll go there. So Ozempic is a trade name.
Well, I know that, but it's a GP1 or
it's which had been around forever, and people have used it forever in health, which has it's a very good indicator in a lot of ways. In fact, Russia, if you look at the Russian studies on peptides and all these, like insulin is a peptide, right? So peptides exist. There's a bunch of peptides out there that are used for medicine. But Ozempic found a way to patent a GLP-1 agonist into a delivery device that gives a metered dose amount to a person that is, can I say, overweight, whatever. And so it's able to trick the body into doing the easy button, like what we talked about before. It's an easy button. Ozempic is an easy button for a lot of people, but it helps a lot of people.
Well, I agree with it helps people, but I'm saying some people, we live in America. I love America. It's the one thing, but some of us have become very lazy. And I'm taking Ozempic so I can go eat that I can have that 500 calorie drink.
Yeah.
I can eat that cake after I've drank that or whatever else. I can have a 10,000 calories supper, we'll just say, with drinks and food and whatever. Well, but I'm taking Ozempic and I'm going to stay thin.
Well, but what? You're exactly right. But it goes deeper than that, I think.
Yeah.
I have eaten all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so now, metabolically, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you've destroyed your physiology after years and years of not caring about what you do or eat or say or think or breathe. And then you think a shot is gonna be beneficial. What it's doing is trying to get your body back online.
Yeah.
In the easy button way. But why can't, like, you could easily do it in a lot of different ways.
Yes, you could. And that's where and I felt the best I've ever felt. And I know I go back into the past, but when I am exercising like crazy, like when I was climbing the mountain, I had goals and my body felt the best it ever felt is when you figure out that you need to exercise. You're exercising, and I know I push exercise, and that's kind of the don't die rusty thing, but it's also good for your mind. I'm talking, I was feeling 100% better with my mind and body, and I felt crappy if I didn't go do it. It's like it's funny how I felt like better, and I think that we grew up. It's different people have different thoughts about how they want to live their life, and I want to live my life so I can keep doing what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like we were talking earlier, I don't want to exist
for the longest period of time.
Exactly.
You want to do what you enjoy doing, and so whatever that looks like for you. Some people want to be active, but when you talk about health, right? Mm-hmm. The musculoskeletal system is the largest, physiologic structure in the body. So, So as you move that and as you do that, your muscles are creating a space in your physiology to help in your digestion or help in your mental aspect. It's a very intricate system that works in just not one way. You can't just go run, think you can eat, a garbage or drink a Monster Energy that's full of chemicals that then have side effects that then make it so that muscle detox is going to be harder. It's crazy, the system, but it goes to where the belief and what they think is good for them and what they don't understand.
And that's, I just did that episode about me being funky and feeling funky. And I was using things as an excuse, and I became lazy. And then I started realizing, you're just giving yourself excuses because it's below zero outside. And I was still trying to exercise, but I wasn't going as far, doing as much as I should. And I just give myself an excuse because I got to go push snow at work, or I have to go do this, or I have to go do that. And I'd say about a month ago, I told myself, we were talking to ourselves, but I said, you're a dumbass and you need to start. I wasn't reading as much as I was just becoming lazy. And we went to Alaska to see Cindy's son, and I just was kind of got into a funk then because it was dark and gloomy, and we were in Alaska in the winter, and it just kind of affected me. Like, well, I got back and knew the sun, and I was feeling better. and I'm starting to get mentally back because that fresh air in the morning. Get up. I wasn't disciplined in myself. Get up at 4:30 and go do this stupid
talks about it. Huberman talks about it all the time. He was talking about that first light.
I know.
Get the sunlight in your eyes or whatever that is, and fresh air. In our world we live in, this simple task of what I refer to grounding or earthing or whatever. Just being a part of nature is not so bad. You live in a cement city with electric lights and noise and 5G internet and vibrations and wavelengths, and you think to yourself, well, do you think this would have an effect on my health? Of course it does.
Yeah.
I mean, to people that don't think it does are crazy. I mean, I think they are, because like EMF, for example, that's one topic we could dive down into. We probably shouldn't. But 5G networks, all that stuff, those are wavelengths that pass right through you. Well, guess what else is a wavelength? A microwave. Well, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Levels, right? But if you expose yourself to toxic levels of whatever it is, sound, noise, pollution, bad thoughts, environment.
Well, that's funny because I don't know if you saw that book that I'm reading, which is really funny because it's Hardwired Happiness is what it's called, and it's by Rick Hanson, but not me, but it's by Dr. Rick Hanson. He was saying the negative thoughts, like if you have that positive thought for 10 seconds, even, he was saying, it will start imprinting in you, and but you can't just glimpse at it and say, I had a good moment, because you'll never remember it. But when you do something that was 10 seconds, I'm just using 10 seconds but if you do something and it's imprinted in you, then you're going to remember it. And that's kind of, I posted that today, like, you can say that's a beautiful view, and you looked at it, you glimpsed at it, but did you see it? If you look at that view for 10 seconds, you're going to remember it more than if I just glimpsed at it and said, "Oh, that was
or look at it and take a picture with your phone."
And
post it. Like, why? This is my favorite. While you're looking at the view, you take a picture and then you're posting it on social media. Like, what is that? That doesn't make sense.
No,
but you want to tell everybody else you saw the beautiful view instead of just looking at it yourself.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I mean, I take the pictures, but I'm looking at the view. I don't post. I'll take a picture, and then I'll just sit there and watch it. And I'll sit there till the sun goes way up in the sky, and I'll just go, this was awesome. This was a great day, because I'm breathing in that cool air. I'm missing Crow Peak at the moment because of the snow. I haven't been climbing up there, but it's one of those deals that that fresh air, just knowing that the energy that comes within that stuff, and that's where we're getting. That's the root of us being healthy. What we eat in our stomach goes to our brain. What we eat in our stomach goes to our body's muscles. So when I was talking about functional medicine, that's where I'm starting to get at and just start delving in deeper for myself. But here's my problem too, is I like to be independent. So I like to look at like Cindy will tell me things, but she's sending me more like podcasts that I would probably be interested in. We're talking about TRT, testosterone replacement therapy kind of stuff. Sure. I'm listening to some of those where I'm listening to, and it's interesting how, I can't remember I was listening to which one, but they said our testosterone has been going down. Like, your grandpa's testosterone is higher than your dad's, and yours is lower. It was interesting to listen to like that episode of that podcast, because, I'm learning more and more, and this is why I like talking to you, because I feel I become smarter. You might get dumber talking to me, but I feel I get smarter. But we have a good conversation.
Well, I wish I was better with research and numbers and names.
Yeah,
and all that
me
stuff.
too.
But I think, like, God, what is his name? But the guy in Huberman that was there maybe a month or so back with amygdala, which is a hard word to say. But there's some MRI evidence of benefit when you do hard things, right? I mean, it's not that simple. It's not that hard to understand. Like everybody's been through it. Like you watch kids go through it. Like do a hard thing, do something like climb Crow Peak 100 times, 100 days in a row.
Well, actually, I have a book up here that says "Do Hard Things" right there by Steve Magnus.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, now goes back to that curiosity thing of like researching it.
Yeah,
which is so fascinating that they're curious on to say what is this that makes a difference, and doing hard things makes a difference.
It does.
It makes a difference in your health, in your happiness, in your brain. It changes your brain, and there is data and evidence from a guy whose name I can't remember, but it's there, and it just goes to show, like, just don't die rusty.
Yeah,
like that's it might be a saying, and I enjoy it, but it's also a way of life that makes us better. Whatever that way of life is, you can't just exist in life. You can't like that's not a lot of people think that that's happiness is just but like, if you don't have sadness, you don't know what happiness feels like. If you don't have sickness, you don't know what health feels like.
Exactly.
Right? And a lot of people nowadays, they don't even know what it's like to feel healthy.
No.
They have no idea.
And I don't I that is the hardest thing for me to understand too, because I'm striving to be the healthiest I can be, to do the best I can. I don't, like we were talking, I just don't want to exist. I saw a video of I think he was 80 some years old, jumped out. They were cliff jumping, and he jumped off the cliff. And that's where I'm not afraid of jumping off the cliff, as long as I'm not going to break my legs at the bottom.
Oh, there's no sharks in there.
There you go. But I'm doing we're trying to get our website going, and I got to write a blog, and the first blog's about Don't Die Rusty, and I keep on trying to think of how I want to say that, but Don't Die Rusty to me isn't just 3 words. It's a way of life, and depends how everybody has their own meaning, what we could say of a Don't Die Rusty, but I'm learning from you, and I'm reading. I've been curious all my life, so I want to read. If I don't understand something, like I said, I read Dante's Inferno because I didn't know about the 7 deadly sins, but did it bore me? Yes. Did I learn something? Yes. When you start learning about yourself, the problem with a lot of people, and we were talking not looking within yourself or not talking to yourself, is too many people these days are not being introspective. They don't want to look within themselves and find their own faults within themselves.
It's hard.
It is hard.
It's hard. What do you do with it when you find it?
Yeah.
Then you got to change. Then you got to do something hard, and you got to, and that's the same thing with healthcare.
Yeah.
Right? No, you don't want to find what's wrong with healthcare because you don't know how to fix it.
Do you think Trump yesterday, I think it was yesterday, signed that transparency in medical bills?
Yeah.
Do you think people will start looking at their bill a little bit more? Or is it the insurance agents? It was just yesterday. He signed an executive order about medical billing transparency. And I was talking to Cindy about it, actually. And
that's interesting. I haven't heard yet. I've been kind of MIA. I had a big surgery day yesterday, so I didn't hear about it.
Yeah, but he signed it yesterday, I think, too. So you wouldn't have heard about it.
He's shaking things up.
He is shaking things up.
It's going to be interesting.
It'll be really interesting with RFK. I'm excited about him in the aspect of getting the truths out there. I mean, I don't know if you listened to RFK when he talked to Megyn Kelly, because Megyn wasn't easy on him. He did say, he didn't like some of the aluminums in the vaccines. Why would we be shooting ourselves with some of the stuff? But I'm excited to see what he does. R30 came up. It's funny. R30 is now going to be out of our food supply.
But that's a real question. I find it funny because my kids think I'm nuts. But we had a big road trip this past weekend. Son's racing, ski racers, driving all the way out into Montana, and And it was late at night, and I'm like, man, I need like a snack. And I typically eat pretty good, but I'm like, I'm on a road trip.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
That's
I need it's late at night, it's dark. I'm like, I need some sugar.
Yeah.
This is a long story for one so slow, stupid point.
No.
Red 40.
Yeah.
I could not find anything in that gas station that did not have red 40 in it, which is a carcinogen, which no country other than the United States allows in their food. And they make the same food in other countries without it. And then you ask yourself, what? Do people know that? So if you go get the same, I don't know, my wife is much better at she'll laugh at me. We talked about this. The food, all they do is take that dye out and replace it with something else and make it in another country.
Yeah.
And in the United States, we don't.
Yeah.
And there's no correlation between the unhealthiest country and the regulations on the government and the pharma and the bills. Like, we're paying people to make decisions. So money is talking for us. Yeah. Because why else? If we know that it's not good for us, if we know it's a cancer-causing agent, and yet we are still eating it and putting it in our food system, why?
Yeah.
It's not that hard to ask why. If you can make it without it, why are you putting it in? And the question that I have, and the scariest thing that I think about all day, every day, is why? Yeah. Like, are we trying, not we, but as a, whatever, I mean, we could get into the dimensions and Illuminati and all, but you have to think about it. Why is it happening? And we just slowly just unhealthy and making $2 trillion on healthcare. I don't know what the number is.
Yeah.
Does that seem funny to anyone that's listening to this podcast? Like, do they want us to be unhealthy?
Well, and that's a question I've been asking, but I've been lucky, and it's funny that I say I have a hippie-ish wife. So, but I mean, you see the animals here, and I'm lucky that I'm going to go probably 90%, if not 85 to 90% of the meat we eat is something I've shot. Is a wild meat.
That's pretty good.
And then you go. So I'm the hunter and my wife's the gatherer, and she has her garden. And I wasn't a very big, like, I love broccoli, I love cauliflower, and we had Brussels sprouts last night and potatoes and this and that. I'm eating more whole foods than I've ever eat probably. I've gotten simple things out of my life because I think when you're young, but I was doing the simple stuff, like, because it's quick and easy. But
because it's the easy button.
And that's the problem. But now eating more of the whole food stuff, because Cindy and I have talked about this, I do feel that I'm getting mentally better. I felt that I was probably losing a little, and I'm doing Magic Find and I have some other stuff, but I feel that I'm getting healthier in that aspect. Now I'm down about 5 pounds now because I realized I want to take a little weight off these joints, and I understand that. I don't know what it is. Maybe what lull I went into, but I'm not going to let myself get there again. Or I'm saying that now, but luckily we're putting it on outline.
Here's a question. Sorry, people aren't really interested in this, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
Right? When did you change your diet?
I changed it probably 3 months ago.
So that this is a fascinating, just anecdotally, but you were in this funk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it correlate with your change in diet?
Well, it could have too.
So there's addiction,
mm-hmm.
and there's dependence,
mm-hmm.
and perhaps some of that could be your body trying to fight that diet,
mm-hmm.
because you're cleansing, right? You're
mm-hmm.
detoxing, and so that sometimes that funk makes a difference. just food for thought.
No,
I mean, I think I noticed that, for example, kids and caffeine and sugar and all that stuff has been linked to behavior changes for sure. We know that.
And then, truly, and then it's quite interesting that you're saying that now that I think about that stuff, because I believe what you're saying. And it's funny, one of my friends just put that up. Like, if you're having a bad day, don't go. It's Sober Cowboy. Her name's Lacey Singleton, and I'll be doing another episode with her sometime too. But she said, if you're having a bad day, there's no need to go back to the thing you were addicted to because you're just having a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing you were addicted to, drugs, alcohol, doesn't matter, is not going to help your day out.
Right.
So don't let a bad day help you relapse.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're saying to me, and I can look introspectively because I know that when we finish this conversation, I'm going to say, keep chasing your dreams, be the best you. I'm not being the best me when I was doing that. I'm learning how to be the best me every day.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, because I'm trying to get to the roots of my problems. And like, because I would come home and I was having an easy meal at lunchtime. Throw it in the microwave. I'm just saying, like, it was a lot of processed food probably that I probably just said, it's simple. I'll make up for it some other time. I'm still active enough, like we were talking earlier. It's not that way. Yeah, I'm turning 57. I'm not 20 anymore. I can't drink Mountain Dews and eat Cheetos and know that I'm going to be able to keep on moving.
But the system,
yeah,
this is the fascinating. The system has programmed you into thinking that you need to eat lunch.
Yeah.
Or thinking that you need to nourish yourself. What evidence do we have of that?
Because I've argued
what evidence like a food pyramid? Oh boy, we could really
I hear you there.
Constructed food pyramid from the commercial aspect of everything.
Yeah.
Come on, that thing is garbage.
Yes.
Then you think 3 meals a day. Well, who said we had to eat 3 meals a day? Who said we have to eat at midday? And who said we have to have dinner? And who said, like, who is making these rules?
And that's
that we follow every day, not knowing if this is going to make us feel better or not feel better. You never know. You may have been hungry at lunch, but that's okay to be hungry. Would you have been better off just not to eat?
Well, and that you're right there. And now I come home and I might have a salad, but I don't. I've argued this point. This is funny because I've argued this point because it bothers me when people that they say they need to eat at different places. I'm going, let me see. We'll go back 1,000 years, 100 years. There were still humans. There were humans here that didn't get to eat.
They ate 3 meals a day?
Exactly.
Including a food pyramid and including like a protein late at night that maybe isn't that great for our digestive system.
That's where I'm going. Yeah. Look at our Indian tribes. Look at our tribes in anywhere in America or anywhere that's native. Will say, do they eat morning, noon, and night? No, they eat when they have the chance to eat the food.
It's so funny. I'll tell this funny story because, and if my brother, I'll have to have my brother listen to this podcast. He calls me last night. He's like, he's been having some health issues and stuff like that, and I said, well, have you ever done a prolonged fast? No, I'm not going to do that. It's crazy. That's crazy. I would never do that. And I'm like, well, you just asked me how to feel better. Like, there's a lot of evidence, and I don't have to get into that, but 72-hour fast. Like, how many people have ever tried a 72-hour fast?
I don't know. I've done it 24, but I've never done it 72.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
If he calls me at 24 hours, I'm like, dude, you got to get through. It's the programming, it's the satiety, it's the stuff. The 48 hours. I haven't had a chance to call him yet today. I'm like, dude, just make it. You just have to make it to 36 hours because I've done a few of them. It's the worst at 24 hours because the mental aspects of like the security of food, and we have the deep programming of you'd be surprised at what the level that is of being hungry. No one ever wants to. You don't want your kids hungry. You're always feeding your kids. You're always doing all that stuff. But the prolonged fast of 72 hours has so many health benefits. It resets your system. It resets your microbiome, your gut. It cleanses your system. It activates macrophages, which clean out all the bad cells in your system, which is so beneficial. A simple thing. They'll be curious to see if we made it 36 hours. I doubt it. But it's hard.
Well, it would be hard. I mean, I've done 24 hours for a reset. That's just in my own head. And people can't believe you'd even do 24 hours. I can't. A 72-hour one would be tough. But I understand the reset. Those are things that you see the curiosity.
But people won't do it because it's not comfortable. I mean, sorry, I have to say this. No. Consult your physician. You may not experience it, but I don't know. I don't know of any that, if you didn't eat for 72 hours, you obviously have to drink. You could drink water because that could create some problems.
Yeah.
But if you're not in good enough shape to not eat for 72 hours, then you're a liability.
Well, definitely.
Because when our food system dries up and you can't go more than 24 hours without eating, that's going to be hard to
do. Yeah. And I've done it for two things. And it's interesting. I mean, I do an infrared sauna too. I've done that. I prefer, now that I've been in your sauna, the dry heat sauna, I love that.
Yeah.
But I do an infrared sauna, and then I do my 24 hours when I try to reset, because I figure I'm sweating stuff. Maybe I'm wrong, but I try to sweat stuff out, and then I just because I think it shrinks my stomach, so I'm not as hungry when I'm done with it too. So I really don't need that much. How much food do we need to eat? We don't need to eat the big bowl of anything. And it's just one of those things. So I like that reset. I've done it myself, and people have said, "What are you doing?" And well, this is what I'm doing. Nobody's told me to do it. I've read a little bit. I want to reset. I've never done the 72. Then you're getting me thinking here. You get me curious.
Yeah, I mean, you could do I've never made it the 96 hours, just because. If you're doing something, you have to limit your activities, right? You can't hike, you can't run, you can't do things. And so for me, I never for me to not do anything for 4 days is really, really tough.
That would be tough.
Yeah, for me. But I think there's benefit in everything you do, whether it's sweating it out in the sauna, jumping in an ice bath. It's all about doing the hard things.
It is, and it's doing the hard things. So that's where we get to learning how to breathe, because when you jump in that cold bath and you have to learn how to breathe for 3 minutes, and because I surprised you that first time I got in.
You nailed it. I think it was you. You were in there, and Jesse and I were sitting there chatting or whatever, and I was supposed to tell you when 3 minutes were up. And I was like, "Oh man, Rick, it's I think you were in there 4.5 minutes." And so, but you're in there, and that's what I get out of that stuff, like exercising. And now I got all this fancy exercise equipment that I do. I try to time hack my life and do all that stuff, but it's hard, and do this, and getting in the sauna and getting in the ice bath is hard, and so. I like doing a hard thing. It feels good, and I accomplished something.
And that's why in the summer, you knew I was going in the creek, going up to my neck. To me, that was the best thing come on a hot day for sure, because I felt like inflammation certainly left my body, and I'd count to 60, or somebody would be in there, and I'd listen to 2 songs because they're down by the creek, and say, that's long enough for me. But that thing, ice baths, what else was I going to get into now? And just one more little thing, but I can't remember what it is now. But
well, I think I would tell somebody, I'm an orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah.
Right. You take it for what it is. I'm really good. I love doing surgery and all that stuff, but But my passion is this overall health, functional medicine, whatever you want to call it. And there's so many modalities out there. So many. You could do red lights, you could do breathing, you could do fasting. We could spend hours, and there's thousands of podcasts that talk about it. But the key is finding what works for you.
Yeah.
And that's what people, I don't know.
Well, I was just pointing at, people ask me, what shoes do you wear? You see, you might not like Solomon's, but I love Solomon's.
Yeah.
You can see that. Is what I'm saying.
Find what works for you.
Yeah.
What works for me? I love sauna. I love ice bath. That's non-negotiable for me. That's what I do. And I found an exercise routine that works. What I haven't found is a way to limit my stress and all that stuff, but I'm working on it. It is what it is. But you need to find, whether it's red light, whether it's a supplement. There's thousands of supplements out there. NAD, methylene blue. I mean, you go on and on. Stem Regen is the new one, and there's 100 different companies that are trying to sell you this or that or the other. Similar to all the companies that are trying to sell you food and nutrition, and now you have organic labels on your food. Well, find out what works for you. Find out what it's like to feel healthy. Find out what it's like to not have knee pain anymore. Like, maybe if I exercise and shed some weight and do some things, then that won't hurt. Or maybe if I don't eat tomatoes, like, try to figure that out.
Oh yeah. And that's where we have this conversation. Cindy and I have a conversation. Whoever else has this conversation of what works for us. And that's why I was pointing to the Solomons, because some people say...
You have a lot of Solomons.
Can you hunt? People ask me what I hunt with. Like, what clothes, what bows, what this, what that. And I always say, this is what I hunt with, but it's not... I'm not going to say that you should hunt it with this stuff because this is what makes me successful. But you might like something different.
How did you get there?
Yeah, you had to learn. And
you had to be curious. You had to try out different things. You don't just pull a hoist back and bow back and like, that's the best bow I've ever shot. No, you shoot different bows. You try different supplements. You try different exercise routines. Mm-hmm. You don't just listen to one person. I'm just one guy.
Well, you are, but like I said, you're my most trusted doctor, and I'll keep on coming to you. And then, like I said, I'm lucky to call you friend. And I know it's getting late here. It's 10:20. I see. It's funny, but
I know as a friend, I'm like, man, if I go over there, I'll just keep talking about conspiracy theories and our corrupted healthcare system. No, but I appreciate, Rick, you had me out to your home and to your studio. It's just fun. It's fun to talk to you. I love talking about this stuff, and I'm glad you're out of your funk. And I think, I'm glad that you're curious, and I'm glad you're doing this podcast because I think it's neat. I always love being on it.
Well, I love having you as guest anytime I can get you on. So again, you're a busy person, but you'll be on a few more times, I hope.
Anytime.
Yeah, because like I said, I learned so much from these conversations that it makes me feel good. Like now I'll probably, even though it's going to be close to 10:30 here, I'll probably not be able to go to sleep because I'll have all these things in my head. But luckily it's been recorded.
I hope your audience gets, sometimes I can be a little scattered, and I hope your audience gets something out of it. But yeah, I will put in a little plug for if you don't mind.
No, do it. And then
I got, anyone who's in South Dakota, and, in need of, functional medicine, help, regenerative medicine, orthopedics, whatever. I'm kind of doing it, and maybe Rick will put up a little post to my website. And,
you'll have to send me some of that stuff.
You can find me on just drrayjensen.com. Super simple.
Yeah.
I got a nice surf picture on me. On the front page, I'll tell, like, I had some other guy on the page for like 2 months. Everyone kept asking me if it was me, and I was like, no. And they're like, well, I was like, I might as well put a picture of myself up there. Hopefully that's not too arrogant.
No.
So I'd like to put pictures of my adventures on there, and I like life, and I love being adventurous, and my goal is not to die rusty.
Well, I like hearing that, and that's why I like having you on, and that's why I trust you, because we have roughly the similar. We want to live, not just exist, and we don't want to die rusty.
Yeah.
So, and I get to, like I said, I am so lucky to have these conversations with you, and I want to have more. And I thought, you know what, we talked about it the last time, and we've been here and there. And here's my problem. I see that you're at all these ski races, and I'm thinking I'm not going to bother him because he's getting back late or he's doing this and that, and then he has his work to do. And then I thought, you know what? If you don't text him, you aren't going to, so text him and say.
I'm happy to do it. I think it's good for me because it's good to be introspective, and it's good to realize that, I have a good life. I love what I do. I'm healthy,
Yeah.
I'm headed to Canada. I'm skiing all next week and doing some adventures with my son, and I've been blessed with the ability to not only do it but to afford it, and I think it's always nice to be retrospective, and I love sharing my knowledge. And I'm not that smart.
You're smart.
But, I can process. I have a lot of ideas,
Yeah.
and I'm curious.
Yeah. And you're never scattered. You want to talk about scattered. People have conversations with me. Now they say, what is Rick talking about? You know what I mean?
Well, I got to start to focus. I can't get distracted with the conspiracy theory and the third and fourth dimension and the aliens and the Anunnaki. So I gotta really focus on the health stuff.
And that's good. And I hope you. Like I said, I know that everybody that I've talked to enjoy our conversations. You're one of the people that people like to hear, and it's actually been way too long. We should have you on a little bit more, but these conversations help me out. I'll tell you.
Well, good. That's why I do it. Well, you just keep living, just doing. I think you just do the best you can.
Yeah.
And it'll all work out.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go here. So, don't die, Rusty Nation. As always, keep chasing your dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die, Rusty.
Thank you for listening to the Don't Die Rusty podcast with your hosts, Rick Hanson and Ricky Bruley. The Don't Die Rusty podcast is written and produced by Rick Hanson and Ricky Bruley. You can find us on Instagram and on Facebook at Don't Die Rusty. You can rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You might find your review read on a future episode. Got a question for the Ricks? Send us an email at don'tdierusty@gmail.com. It too could be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Don't Die Rusty podcast wherever fine podcasts are downloaded.